Alright, it's time for another edition of In Between Days, where we chat chowder about everything going on the hit soap Days of Our Lives. Although lately I don't know if I'm reviewing Rosemary's Baby, which I've actually never seen, or the soap itself, but we're gonna jump into things in just a minute. Be sure to like, share, subscribe if you enjoy what you hear, and as always, hello to everyone, hello to all of our subscribers, new and old. I know that it's been a little bit of a lengthy hiatus. We missed last week, but in my defense, the show has been moving a little bit slowly lately, in my opinion, and we're gonna get into all of that. I did make some comments in some Facebook groups, and I want to talk about some of that chatter and some of those ideas this week as well. But in a nutshell, we're just going to be reviewing the show as always and jumping right into things right after this. But coming up next, your weekly preview of Days of Our Lives.
My wife. She just isn't herself.
Your eyes are so cold.
You don't think Marlena's possessed again, do you? Take the glasses off.
It's time you don't leave well enough alone.
Alright then, so let's jump into things now. Let's start with this. We just listened to the weekly preview, and I want to talk about something that we addressed in previous weeks on this show, because I was a little bit upset. I was wondering why it was that if Marlena is becoming possessed again, why did she not have those yellow eyes of the devil? And in the previous incarnation, in the original storyline rather, of the possession, Marlena had to hide her eyes from everyone. So in the beginning, she was wearing sunglasses and not letting anyone see her eyes, not letting Dr. Michael Horton look at her eyes, not letting John look at her eyes, and eventually she had Celeste give her some contact lenses that were able to conceal her devil possession eyes. And if you can follow all of that in this current storyline, none of that was going on. She didn't have... Well, she did have the eyes at certain times, I believe, already, but she was not needing to possess them. And I guess they have finally addressed that, because she is not entirely possessed by the devil yet, and so she does not have the issue yet with concealing her eyes. It does seem like that's coming up. So once Marlena becomes fully possessed by the devil again, I can't even believe the words coming out of my mouth right now, by the way. So once Marlena becomes possessed by the devil again, 25 years later, she is apparently going to have to conceal her eyes, and we did see a shot of her in the weekly preview video where she's wearing the sunglasses, and John wants her to take those glasses off. So we'll have to see where all of that goes, because I was absolutely having a real issue with that fact that she was that Marlena has been walking around and not concealing her eyes, and what's going on with that, and why is this so inconsistent, and can they not, if anything else, at least have some consistency with this storyline versus the one from 25 years ago. So it seems like all of that is getting hashed out, and I am trying so hard not to judge this current storyline until it plays out. Obviously, there's a lot of backlash online in all of the Days of Our Lives groups, and probably on Twitter, which I try to avoid, because Twitter is kind of just a lot of negative back and forth for the most part. But so what I'm really getting at is I just want there to at least be some consistency. We've obviously gotten some really campy territory, and I'm trying not to judge, but after seeing Friday's program, it's really, really hard not to severely get on the case of the writers. I have absolutely relatively no issues with any of the acting it's the writing. I'm not sure why we're revisiting this storyline. I know that it was the number one storyline 25 years ago, ratings-wise. I would not have revisited this myself, probably. But again, I've been trying to reserve judgment. I don't want this to be 20 to 40 minutes of just bashing the program or criticizing the storyline. I know a lot of people obviously are just like done with the show. They're not gonna watch. They can't believe this is happening. Why would you invite the devil into your homes? The cast on the show, some of them are using holy water on set. At least that's a rumor, and I know that 25 years ago that may or may not have taken place as well. But I think that's what Deirdre Hall and sorry, his real name is escaping me at the moment, but Robert Scott Wilson, I believe is his name. They were saying that, I believe they actually did say that on the Kelly Clarkson show, that they were using holy water on set. But before we get all scattered and all over the place and long-winded, I just want to say that it's really hard. It's really hard right now to just watch the show with an open mind and not criticize too much. But for the people saying they're done and all of that, that's their prerogative. But what I don't like is judging the storyline before it plays out and all of that. So what I'm trying my best to do, because it's very hard at this point to not just say this is campy, they've lost the plot, what's going on, and that's kind of all been covered and said by many outlets, many times, many fans on many Facebook groups, on many platforms. I think the majority, see, it's hard to say because the majority we don't really know until ratings come out. What we do get is this slice of fans that are very vocal on the internet that don't necessarily represent the majority, but it is a slice of the fan base. And as far as the internet community that participates in talking about Days of Our Lives, they generally do not seem too pleased at all. Some people just don't like the fact that it's a campy storyline. Other people don't like it because they feel that it's sacrilegious, which is a bit of a stretch. It's just a show. There's movies out there. There's horror movies out there that obviously depict the devil and all sorts of things. The difference, I guess, is that we're watching a soap opera and we don't expect to get a horror movie. And again, I think I've said this in previous episodes, but I think that it would be completely okay to do a Halloween spoof of the story that was 25 years ago and then do it for a couple of weeks, make it funny, make it campy, and then wrap it up. And it was all like either a bad dream or just a Halloween week where they went a little out there and now they're gonna reel it back in. But the fact that this story arc, a lot of people actually still believe that it's just a Halloween thing, a Halloween joke, a Halloween spoof, but it's not. It's actually a story arc that's going to last, they say, at least until Christmas, if not beyond that into Valentine's Day, or who knows. So a lot of people upset about that as well, because during Christmas time they're going to be having this storyline with the devil. That's not really my issue at all. My issue is just that it's gotten way out there. So I'm not even sure where to start, but on Friday's episode, you've got Marlena looking at her phone, and she's looking at a devil emoji that is talking to her. So we are to believe and accept that the devil has chosen to take the form of a devil emoji with piercings and a mohawk, and in this cellular phone is talking to Marlena. It's too much, man. It hurts my head. So let's try to just go through things. Let's see. I know we've missed 2 weeks, but again, the show's been kind of slow. They've slowly been introducing more devil stuff until basically get out the umbrellas, because it's going to be this massive umbrella storyline that probably is going to affect everyone in Salem in some way. So get your umbrellas out, because it's going to be an all-encompassing storyline that they have slowly been introducing. So initially we saw something with this devil storyline, and then they barely touched it for a week. They just focused on other stuff going on, and then slowly it's been becoming more and more about this devil storyline. And of course it's involving Ben and Sierra now, and of course it's involving Johnny, who wants to film this movie about everything that happened 25 years ago in regards to Marlena being possessed by the devil. So anyhow, without further ado, let's try to jump into the show, and I'm gonna try to keep it a little, I probably always say this, but I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit on the shorter side this week as compared to maybe last time, but we'll see how it goes. And then I'm gonna try also to jump into some of these comments that have been coming up on Facebook in the last week or two. I made some interesting suggestions about perhaps how this all could have gone, so we're going to talk about that. But let's just go down here and see what's been going on Days of Our Lives. So we have Abigail and Chad. They acted out a scene from the movie, or what's going to be the movie. So basically they have Chad trying out for the part of John Black and Abigail playing Abby, but then of course we find out that because EJ is going to be financing a portion of the movie instead of Roman, who pulled his money out after talking to John, EJ wants to get at Chad, so he agrees to finance a part of Johnny's movie on the condition that he gets to play John Black. And of course the interesting thing about that is that not only is he trying to annoy Chad and push his buttons, but he had an affair once with Abby. EJ, that is, had an affair with Abby. Of course, the odd thing is at the time EJ was being played by another actor, as was Abby, and those two former actors that were playing EJ and Abby at the time had chemistry. This Abby doesn't particularly have chemistry with anyone, and I don't mind her as an actress. I've just never liked her in the role as Abby. I think it would have been interesting if they would have brought her on as perhaps a new Stephanie Johnson or something like that. But to me, and perhaps I'm biased because I was a big fan of Kate Mansi as Abigail, but to me, not only did Chad and Abigail have a lot more chemistry when Kate Mansi was in the role, but when they did that affair between Abigail and EJ, there was a lot of chemistry there. I don't see any between this Abby and this EJ, so I hope they don't really go in that direction, but we'll have to see about that. But that's the twist right now with the movie, is that EJ wants to play John so that he is playing opposite to Abigail, who would be playing Marlena. And hopefully this movie doesn't actually go forwards, because it was getting awfully confusing and convoluted, and it's just a lot of ridiculousness on Days of Our Lives right now. There's not really any real way to sugarcoat it, but I'm trying not to just talk negatively for the next half an hour. So, John has convinced Roman to pull his funding. EJ steps in to offer Johnny some funding, even though EJ was completely against this movie. He just wanted Johnny to join Demira and work for the family company, but now he has a whole new take on things and just wants to get back at Chad for supporting Johnny with this movie, which EJ sees as Chad going against him, because Chad knew that EJ was very against this movie and just wants Johnny to work for the family company once again, which honestly years ago Stefano just wanted EJ to work for the company, but he went through many occupations, including race car driver and the like. So it's just a little bit of history repeating itself, which is basically all we're getting on Days of Our Lives lately. It's a lot of history repeating itself, and I think I've made this criticism before, but it seems like really the writers, all they really seem to know how to write is these lookalikes or masks or siblings that never existed. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I've criticized this before where I say they'll invent characters like Summer, for example, or like Gwen, who, by the way, I like Gwen and I like the actress that plays Gwen, but obviously Gwen never existed, and instead of bringing in characters like that, we could see Justin's sons, for example. We could see an Andrew Donovan. We can see a Noelle, perhaps, Melissa. I would be building up the Hortons and the Bradys and the other core families that are severely kind of hurting at this point, because a lot of characters have left, right? So there's no Hope, there's no Jennifer, there's really not a lot of Hortons on the show if you really think about it. So if you go back to Tom and Alice, you know, you want to make sure those Hortons are built up and those Bradys, and there's ways to do that, even if you have to recast here and there. You know, where's Mike Horton, especially if you're gonna have this devil stuff come up again. I almost said devil shit, and I probably should have. But, you know, Mike Horton was the original Doctor, so it's just, there's all these opportunities to bring in people, even if you're going in the direction that you're going in with all this campy devil shit. Let's see some more Hortons and Bradys and stuff like that. So I know I'm kind of all over the place this week, but so are they. Let's see what else we have going on. Ben and Sierra are having this discussion lately about whether or not to make a baby, and so basically Ben's reservations have been that since he has a history of mental illness, and since he was a serial killer in his past life, he doesn't want to pass those genes on to his own child, and so he has a lot of reservations. Of course, he goes and sees Marlena to talk about it. He has no idea that Marlena is being influenced by the devil, and guess what? The devil wants Ben and Sierra to have a baby so he can take this demon seed and, you know, partner up with it, make this evil baby do its bidding, I suppose. So again, I made the joke off the top that this is straight out of Rosemary's Baby, but Ben and Sierra are actually in bed at one point, and Rosemary's Baby comes on. So if you want to talk about campy and just over the top, there you go. And I've never actually seen that movie, but obviously it has something to do with the devil taking possession or being interested in some sort of evil child, and that's where we're seemingly going with all this Ben and Sierra stuff. The way it seems like it's going to play out is that the devil's going to repossess Marlena, manipulate a bunch of stuff in Salem, but the number one goal is to get control or possession of Ben and Sierra's child. So Sierra throws away her birth control after Ben comes home and declares that Marlena has convinced him that everything will be alright, and he still has some reservations, but they decide to go and make a baby. So probably in the span of one day, Sierra throws away her birth control. She's probably already pregnant, and the rest will be history. And of course, after Ben and Sierra make love, the window mysteriously blows open, and on a calm night they have all this wind and mysteriousness going through the room, and they don't think much about it, and they just kind of write it off. But Ben, who really does have correct reservations about all of this and thinks it's a bad idea for them to be having a child, obviously he's not wrong at the moment, and he does believe that perhaps that was a bad omen, but it just gets kind of written off, and they just go about things and they don't think too much about it. Not to mention that John is an ISA agent, and for the second time can't figure out that something's wrong with his wife. Very ridiculous. So, what else? You know, we have also EJ and Nicole going on. Let's see, where do we want to go next? Let's talk about EJ and Nicole and Rafe and Rafe and Ava and all of that stuff. So let's see if we can get through this. So EJ's obviously made some moves on Nicole because he is no longer with Sammy. Nobody knows where Sammy even is, and once EJ found out that Sammy had cheated on him with Lucas, he, you know, kind of wrote her off and isn't interested in her, although he may have been the one that kidnapped her, but we'll just leave that to the side for a moment. EJ has expressed an interest in Nicole, and of course they went on a sort of a date recently, and meanwhile we've got Rafe that's currently with Ava, but we all know he has feelings for Nicole. EJ this week walked up on Rafe and Nicole, almost having like an intimate moment. They were about to kiss, and there's this whole back and forth between EJ and Rafe about it, and I'm not exactly sure where all of that is going in the immediate, but obviously what's bound to happen is that Ava is going to discover that Rafe was not being too honest after all, and that he does have feelings for Nicole. He may or may not end up with Nicole, but obviously Ava is going to discover that something is going on between them, and then that is probably going to turn boring, domesticated Ava into old, psychotic Ava, and then things will get interesting because she plays that very well. Right now, no fault of the actress, but Ava's a little bit boring and domesticated at the moment, so I don't expect that to last for too long at all. And meanwhile, in other news, as we know, Ava has found out some information about Jake's past, which she has leaked to Philip, and Gabby was right on the money and knew that it must have been Jake. Gabby knew that it must have been Gabby knew that it must have been Ava that leaked that information to Philip, because Ava and Jake were in the past both tied to the Vitale family. Of course, Ava is a Vitale, and Jake worked for the Vitales in the mob. What we didn't know until recently was that he was a hitman, and there's this other former hitman named Carmine, and Carmine and Jake apparently were involved in the murder of this other person, and Carmine is willing to testify that it was Jake who killed this other person, when in reality, according to Jake, it was actually Carmine who beat the person to death. So now there's this blackmail situation going on where Gabby might lose her company. It's basically being put to her that either she gives up the company or Jake goes to jail. So that's what's going on with that. Honestly, I'm not too invested. I'm not too interested. It's just more of that kind of who's going to be CEO of what, and not a lot really to invest in there, except for the fact that I am holding out for Ava to kind of go psycho, and that might be interesting, that might be fun. And what else have we got going on? We've got the whole Philip and Chloe and Brady stuff. Again, that's just rehash. Like, Philip and Chloe, they dated in high school. It's not 1990 whatever anymore. There was this whole Philip and Chloe and Brady, you know, circle back then, and it's really not interesting. It's just this back and forth that Philip gets jealous because he keeps seeing Chloe and Brady in situations where it looks like it's something that it is not. So, he's caught Chloe and Brady in, hugging and all of that a few times, and he's gotten ridiculously jealous, and Chloe tries to talk him down and explain things, and again, Philip goes off. So Chloe is beginning to realize that Philip is not going to change, and that he's going to be consistent in his jealous ways, and I think she is about fed up with the whole situation. So maybe Chloe will end up with Brady once again. All of this stuff has been done and done again, so I'm not sure why we're getting all this same stuff, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I do not feel invested in any of these storylines, and the main thing on the show right now is obviously the devil possession. Something else that occurred, obviously Abe proposed to Paulina, and that wasn't this week, but we've got that whole situation as well happening on days where Abe has proposed to Paulina, but she's keeping the secret that she is in fact Lonnie's real mother, and Abe is actually not Lonnie's real father. So we'll see how all of that plays out in the days to come, but honestly, it's going to either go one of two ways. Either Abe is going to be absolutely beyond floored when he finds out that Lonnie is not his real daughter and all of that, and that Paulina knew and kept it a secret. He's not going to be happy with any of that. But either they get past that or they don't. And if they get past that, then Abe ends up becoming Lonnie's stepfather, and instead of becoming Lonnie's stepmother, Paulina becomes her real mother, which is she is, because the secret will come out and whatever. And honestly, it's pretty obvious that a few weeks back when Paulina went and told the devil, told Marlena that she explained her secret to Marlena, why she had to keep it a secret that she was Lonnie's real mother. So basically, in a nutshell, just to go over it again, she was with an abusive man and had to keep the pregnancy away from him, and so her sister and her mother and herself all decided that it would be better if her sister raised Paulina, if Paulina and her mother and her sister decided that it would be better if her sister raised Paulina as her own. Tamara Price, just for the record. And so that secret is eventually going to come out, but the fact that she went to Marlena's office and told her all of that information, and Marlena is subsequently going to be possessed by the devil, it's like probably about a 99% chance that the devil is going to spit out that secret at one point or another, and then all hell is going to break loose. And speaking of all hell breaking loose, I didn't even mean to do that, but that was a perfect segue. John is also very unhappy about Johnny making this movie in the first place, and he is adamant that Johnny does not make this movie about Marlena being possessed by the devil, because he thinks it's going to invite bad memories back for Marlena. And then at the end of this week, to everyone's surprise, when Johnny goes to ask Marlena for her permission to make this movie about the time when she was possessed by the devil, everyone obviously expects her to say, absolutely not, I would not be comfortable with that. Ali will not be in Johnny's movie unless Marlena gives him permission, so he goes to see her to get the permission from her, and much to everybody's surprise, Friday's episode ends with Marlena saying, actually, I think that wouldn't be such a bad idea. And obviously that's because the devil is gaining control over Marlena. So obviously that would not be something that Marlena would say or want. So if John can't figure it out on Monday, I don't know what to tell you, because this guy is an ISA agent. He's already been through it once with Marlena. And if you rewind back 25, 26 years, when John was going through this the first time, Kristen was the one that figured out that Marlena was possessed by the devil. At first only really Father Francis knew and Celeste knew, because the devil via Marlena revealed itself to Celeste, but really the only one that knew that Marlena was possessed by the devil was Father Francis. And Father Francis was in bed in the hospital and couldn't tell anybody as much as he was trying to. But long story short, last time, 25 years ago, Kristen was the one who figured everything out. And Kristen is not around right now, obviously. She's on the run. Steve is going to be hired by Victor to find Kristen, but that's a whole other story that we won't get into right now. But, here's the thing, because I lost my train of thought, if I'm being completely honest with you right now. So yeah, Johnny goes and asks for permission. Marlena says it wouldn't be such a bad idea. John, if he is not able to figure out by Monday that she is possessed by the devil or something's wrong with her, then I don't know, because this guy is a mercenary and a former ISA agent and currently some sort of private detective, so how he wouldn't be able to figure out that something is very off by now is beyond me. But like I said, I'm just trying to go with it and not judge it too much, but it's very, very hard. I'm also trying to think off the top of my head if there's anything else to get to, but we didn't get any really Bonnie and Justin stuff or anything else. I did want to touch on one thing. It was great to see Maggie back on screen, because she went through a hell of an ordeal in real life, and she was away from the show for I think about 6 months, and she's one of the longest running consistent cast members on the show. But what happened, I don't want to get this wrong, but she already has an illness that she deals with anyhow. But apparently she choked on a pill and had to go to the hospital. I believe her hair was in curlers, and either it got burnt off by the curlers or something else happened, but she lost a lot of her hair after choking on this pill and having to call the hospital. She also recently lost her mother, who she lived with, so she was, on her own by herself, was choking on this pill, and I guess managed to call, I don't want to get this wrong again, the article was put in Soap Opera Digest, but, the EMTs and whatnot came and they got her, and everything turned out okay. But, yeah, Maggie, or Suzanne Rogers, essentially, who plays Maggie, is wearing a wig right now on the show. So until her hair actually, her trademark red hair actually grows back. But it was great to see her on the show, and hopefully she's doing well. I just hope that she is in good health and everything will be okay now. It was good to see her back on the show, and it's good to see that she's able to work again, because obviously she's very happy there and probably happier working, so it's good to see her back in the thick of things, although we only saw her very briefly. And I believe we're also going to finally see Victor Kiriakis on screen again next week. He's going to be paying a visit to some people might not like spoilers on here, but we don't really get too much into spoilers, so that's okay. But he is going to be paying a visit to the DA next week, and I'll just leave it at that. I won't get too deep into the spoilers. And I know this episode is all over the place, but I apologize once again for being a little bit scattered this episode. I also want to say to everyone that I know I missed a week in there, but things have been a little bit hectic and busy, and believe it or not, I'm working on writing my own TV pilot, and so that's exciting, and we'll see where all of that goes, but that just means that I didn't have as much time. So I wanted to also the show has been moving a little bit slower, so it's almost like if we just cover things every 2 weeks, we don't miss a whole lot. But it was never the intention to really skip any weeks with you guys. I do want to try and be consistent and put an episode out once a week over the weekend. So in between Friday and Sunday is usually when I drop a new episode. And speaking of dropping new episodes, even though we probably didn't cover everything this week, and we probably didn't cover it in a very streamlined way. Some weeks I like to go day by day, and other times I like to go just kind of storyline by storyline. But before we go any further, because it's actually getting into being a lengthy episode as always, and I'm not even really sure what I talked about for the last half an hour. So, again, it's a little bit of a scattered episode, but I did want to talk about some of the stuff going on Facebook. So, yeah, obviously a lot of negative feedback about this devil possession storyline, because not only is it campy, but it's a rehash, it's a revisitation, and I know that the argument is, oh, this is different, it's a whole new spin, there wasn't a baby involved last time. Please, it's the same thing again, and we all know that. I'm not going to judge the storyline before it plays out, so I have decided to stick it out. In 1994, I did not stick it out. I did not watch that whole storyline. I have seen it all since then, so I'm totally familiar with the entire old storyline, and I can't say that I cared for it the first time. When I watched it finally years later, it was not as bad as I would have thought, only because it was nostalgic, and I was like, oh, I remember this, I remember that, I remember, Mike Horton being in town, and just different things like that, and, getting to watch Stefano again was enjoyable, but, I didn't care for it the first time, as many people did not care for it the first time. I know it was a ratings success, but the jury is still out on that, so we'll find out if it's going to be good or not this time. But I had some ideas to make the show a little bit better. Some I've already given you, and others not so much. So, I've made my real suggestions in the past about how to bring in characters that are actually tied to the family and bring some people back and other things. So we're not going to talk about all that again, because I've already mentioned it even in this episode. But I made a post in one of the there goes the thing again. I made a post in one of the Facebook groups, and I said, what would happen if Duke the bear, that stuffed bear that Rafe and Nicole share custody of, what would happen instead of the devil possessing Marlena again and doing the same old storyline again? I made the suggestion, what if the devil instead possessed Duke the bear, and Duke the bear was running around Salem causing havoc, and that got quite the response from everyone. And another suggestion I made is, what if not only Sarah and Sammy are on some Demira Island kidnapped, as they probably are? What if Eric was also in? We all think that Eric's in Africa, that he went back to Africa, but what if he was actually kidnapped somewhere along the way? And what if Eric was actually with Sarah on the island? Sarah, who he has a lot of history with. What if Eric and Sarah were on the island together with Sammy? And what if it was Kristen who kidnapped them all in some way, shape, or form and is the one watching over them in cahoots with EJ, or not, but that would be interesting. And if Xander is going off soon to find Sarah, wouldn't it be interesting if not only it turned into this, because seemingly it's going to turn into a love triangle between Sarah and Xander and Gwen. But what if, and I don't think this is going to happen, especially Greg Vaughn's obviously not coming back to play Eric, but they could recast him again. But I just wanted to throw it out there. What if Eric was thrown into the mix and then it was this, instead of a love triangle, we had a love square going on. So I think on that note, that covers everything. I did have some funnier stuff to talk about and a few things here and there, but somehow, full disclosure, I recorded this one really early, and it's probably not the best episode, but I did want to get something out to you guys. So here it is, for better or for worse, and a lot of it has been worse lately, but let's see what happens this week on Days of Our Lives, and maybe I will do a short and sweet, just to make up for not being consistent. Maybe I'll pop in midweek and make some comments on what's been going on the show, but either way, we will follow up and meet again next week. Take it easy, everybody. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and next week I will totally be back on my game, but again, lots going on my side of the world, and again, I can't talk a lot about it. I wish I could, but I've been writing a TV pilot for the last 2 months, and it's funny because a lot of people will say on the Facebook groups, well, if you've got all these ideas, why don't you write for the show? And I'm just like, hell yeah, sign me up. I'll write for the show. I know quite a bit about it. And I've actually, once I wrap up writing this TV pilot and all of that, I'm actually considering writing a short piece of fan fiction for Days of Our Lives, just to make all these people eat their words. So maybe I'll post that up. You just never know. Look for it, because I'm considering doing something, just a little short piece and of fan fiction, Days of Our Lives fan fiction, just because all these people think that, And I'm also tired of one more thing before I go. If you're on these Facebook groups and you're one of those people that say, well, if you don't like it, just change the channel or stop watching, don't watch anymore. That is a very stale and tired argument, because there are people that have been watching 30, 40, 50 years. And so to say to somebody that doesn't happen to care for a particular storyline to just change the channel and not watch, you could be talking to somebody that has, like myself, that has been watching this show since they were in the womb, and are a third generation watcher. So to say to them, oh, just don't watch if you don't like it, it's really not that simple, and it's silly, because there's a lot of other storylines that take place on the show, and we also all do not want the show to go off the air, because it's been with us in our lives for so long, so we're protective of the show, and we have a lot of attachment to the show. So just because we don't care for a particular storyline doesn't mean that we want to turn off the channel or not see the show succeed. If anything, we really want it to be better. We just don't feel like a lot of the show right now is very good whatsoever. So before you use that tired argument, if you're one of those people and you're out there and you're one of those people on Facebook commenting, just don't watch if you don't like it, please cut that shit out, because everybody has a right to their opinions. And if they're just, and I'm not talking about the people that are commenting, oh, I'm done with the show, I'm just not gonna watch. But if a person says, much like myself, or whoever, if they're saying that they don't like a particular storyline and they're outlining the reasons why, and they're offering constructive criticism and or offering their own ideas about how they think it would be better and what they would do. There's nothing wrong with that because they're just stating their opinion, and if it's done in a constructive way without bashing the show and just saying, I'm done with the show forever. If they're offering constructive criticism, please keep that in mind, that they're completely entitled to their opinions, and most of these Facebook groups that are out there to do with Days of Our Lives are just that. They're discussion groups. So just discuss, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. And on that note, I'll see you next time, because I said this was going to be a short and sweet episode, and we barely covered anything, but yet we took 45 minutes. So there you go. I hope everybody enjoyed this one. I promise you, if nothing else, next week we will do a better episode. I don't know if we can say the same for Days of Our Lives. So I'll see you next week, and be well, everyone. Be safe.